right, so what I want to talk about today is basically forearm and elbow pains that sometimes happen when you're rowing. So if you like to row on the water, if you row on the indoor rowing machine, if you're a rower of any kind and you start to get either forearm or outside or inside elbow pain, or even like kind of pain in your wrists, these are some things you might want to pay attention to when you're on the rowing machine. There's also some things that you can do off the rower, which I cover in another video. But when it comes to actually rowing on the machine or on the water, and it's a little bit different on the water because you have to do certain things to kind of feather your oar, which is get your oar so that it's not just scraping on the water. So one of the things that you want to start with is what's happening at your hands. Are you death gripping the handle? Are you nice and loose? Are your hands in? Are your hands out? And then what's happening up here? Are your elbows flaring out? Are you rowing up to here and it creates kind of this angle at your wrists? So that would happen when you're back here, but just trying to give an idea. So are your wrists up like this? Or if you're flaring out or you're keeping your elbows down, does something funky like this happen when you're holding at your wrist? Like, is your wrist in or out? Those are all things that you want to pay attention to when you're rowing. So for starters, death gripping, we don't want that. It means you're using your arms a little bit too much. So rowing is majority of your leg power. It's that push here. If you are death gripping, you're probably using your arms more than you want to. Some people also will not end up straightening their elbows, so they'll be slightly bent, which makes them use their arms more than they realize as well. So that could be something else that you want to pay attention to. But for starters, have a nice loose grip handle, loose grip. If you're a person who death grips, you might want to try bringing your thumb over to the top, and that can help you kind of get that loose grip. So you can try that. I also like to have my pinkies over the edge. So my pinkies really aren't even on here. And what happens is then my arms are a little bit more in line with my shoulders as opposed to being further in, which is going to use my muscles a little bit differently. So if I can get a wider grip, I'm more in line with being in line with my shoulders. So that's one of those things that you want to consider if you're kind of all the way in here when you're holding that handle. So that's some things. Then the other thing you want to consider is where you pull in. So if you're back here and you're up like this, or I've had somebody who did like this, who's down here, pay attention. So record yourself from the side. Pay attention to is your wrist nice and level, or are you doing something funky when you're in this position or when you're up here? So if you're up here and doing that, maybe try pulling a little bit lower to get your wrists in a little bit more of a neutral position. But those are some tips that I would recommend starting with, so you can play with what happens with your elbows and your shoulders and your wrists in the finished position. So playing with that might change that effect that's happening at your wrist there, and also might decrease some of the strain happening at your elbow and your shoulder as well, and really just not death gripping that handle. So that's what I wanted to talk about today. In another video, I've got some things that you can try to do off of the rower to help with any elbow or forearm pain that you might be getting. But I hope that helps some of you out. And please go ahead and hit that subscribe button if you liked it. And I've also got a free Facebook group, so please feel free to join that group, ask your questions, and I make a video to help and answer your questions. So thanks for staying tuned, and chat soon.
Thanks for watching. I really hope you enjoyed that video. If you did, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. I put new things out weekly so you can get new information. You can also join the Keep Rowing Longer Facebook group where you can ask your questions and get your questions answered quickly. So if you're interested in that, I'd love to see you there. There's a link in that description below, and I hope to see you there and chat soon.